Good evening.
Good evening.
I am called Ariana, goddess of truth, and I bring you this night a little conversation about how we are all in spirit, one with your celebrations. Do you know you cannot have a moment of thinking joyfully about your life that we are not there increasing the joy with you? And truthfully, the moments you are crying and feeling tearful, mournful about your life, we are there also, not mourning with you, but celebrating all of that with you. Because it is that which you journey through which brings you the deepest connection to God's source. When you realize that everything you do, everything you say, everything that comes into your world is your gift, is your opportunity to become more awakened to this divine light. And when this is your truth, when the truth of it is yours, well, the celebration is boundless in spirit. All of the angels are there celebrating. Sometimes that might seem that we are celebrating your sorrow. We are celebrating the opportunity and the life that is in that sorrow. We are not celebrating your feelings of despair or your feelings of grief or your feelings of unrest. We celebrate the potential of your divine awakening within all of that. So when you choose to celebrate all of it, imagine how much more full, how much more integrated your life is with divine as you, living in every cell of your body, living in every breath. Your being then integrates, meaning you become whole with all that you are. You celebrate then all that you are in what is presented to you. So if you awaken every day with a prayer, a mindful, conscious decree, I now am willing to celebrate every moment of this day. I celebrate that this day is my gift of life. Imagine what might happen in your moment-to-moment experiences when you accept that to be true, and because you have decreed it, it becomes more real to you with every experience. Then, the important thing, my friends, is that when you have made this decree for your day, you have said, it is so, I celebrate it now. What if the moment occurs where you have forgotten that? Because life gets very present in a very big way when other people start to engage with you. When you suddenly are driving in traffic, or you are in a place where someone's conversation does not mesh to your understanding, or you hear politics, or it's the worldly stuff, becomes a place for you to discreate your celebration. It's a place for you sometimes to lose the moment, the momentum of your celebration. Well, then you bless it, right? You forgive it. You say, oh, that's my human nature forgetting the truth, forgetting to celebrate things, because what happens is, in those moments, you have separated yourself once again. When you think that your celebration is an activity of only what you think of as the good things, only what you think of as the nice things, as only that you think of as harmonious relationships as they might present, that's worth celebrating, and the rest of it, not so much. So you separate. This is worth celebrating, this is not worth celebrating. Oh, some have said to me, do you know, beloved, they've said to me, that if I give it my attention, it will only increase. So I don't want to give it any attention, that this negative, angry, fearful, emotional stuff is occurring in my world. And I have to say, I really like that thought. And I really know that that's not true. you don't want to give it attention in that you start to hold on to it as a belief, but you give it attention with the sense of loving appreciation that it exists as an expression that you have the power to bless. You have the power, not to change anyone or anything, but you have the power to bless, so that you then recognize, I'm not sure where the divine is in all this, but I do know it's there. You may think, I don't see the divine in this situation or this person, but I know it's there. And I celebrate that that's an opportunity through my blessing for it to increase, to become expanded for me and for whoever is in that world. Do you know this world is not a battle of light and dark? Did you remember that to be true? That's an old paradigm, as some would call it. That's an old pattern. That's an old belief system. That it's all about the darkness trying to take your light away. And you have to fight and become strong. And we've created archangels and Michael and others to become our warriors. And we have superheroes in your comic world to give you the power, to represent the power to fight evil and darkness. When the truth is, you need to be aware that there are twisted misunderstandings which present as disharmonious activities, which present as evil consciousness, but that's not what is real. So we don't want to empower those things to continue them. We want to empower them for the possible point of light, the actual point of light, whether we see it or not, that exists in all of that. So if you don't have to fight the darkness and the evil, what are you here for? Some people have said, well, I've come to this earth plane to be part of the light group and to send the darkness away. Well, it's very simple to send the darkness into its own state, isn't it? Do me a favor, if you will. Turn all this off for just 1 second.
Is it live? Oh, you want the 3?
So here we are in the illusion of darkness. But even then, because of the way that this world that you are living in exists, there's little glimmers of light out there. There's light coming from over there. And if we could dim it all down to darkness, all you need to do is be light. Be the light. Thank you. You don't have to fight the darkness, you just put light in there. And you don't have to do a whole lot about that except to choose to be that. You are light whether you understand it or not, whether you feel it or not. That's who you are. That's who we all are. The darkness exists in a very sacred way. The real darkness, if you will, if there is such a thing, the real place of the womb where life is created. There aren't big light bulbs inside mother's womb. It's dark for a grand reason, so that there's a whole quietude place for life to be creating itself. And in space, you have wonderful now photographs, reflections of how vast the universe is, with all the many lights and stars and the twinkling planets and the many suns. And that exists so far away in terms of your science understanding of light years that it isn't even really there. Right? It's just a gift for you that even once it has been dimmed and the light has gone out, so it would seem scientifically, the aura of it is there because of your perception of time and space. Light is eternal, but the beginning of all things created came out of darkness, the sacredness of darkness, not the evil of darkness. Almost every culture and every religion which talks of creation has a similar story of its beginnings. and in most cultures that you're familiar with, the first words spoken by the divine is, "Let there be light." Well, if there hadn't been that decree, what? The darkness. If there hadn't been that decree, life would not have expressed. It was the beginning of acknowledging energetically, universally, that we are going to become fully participating and knowing who we are in the light. That's never going to really go away. It may look to go away, we can pretend to turn the lights out here, but unless something really different happens in your physical world here, you can just turn the switch again, right? And it's on and off, and on and off, and it's an illusion. People on this planet have wondered for many millennia, how can we celebrate the light when we live in the shadow, when we live in the darkness? And so many began to celebrate the darkness. And that was wise, until someone who wanted the power among the people on this earth began to feed untrue stories into their myths, that the darkness was there because of bad choices. The darkness was there because of wrongdoing, because of turning a back to God, to light, to truth. Those were not true stories. They're lies. So, we are in this part of your consciousness going through the cycle of remembering the truth, remembering the light from a new place, and honoring the sacredness of the darkness, because it is just as much illusion as your current version of what light is. When you are comparing light and dark, and one is good and one is not good, you are not whole. The world cannot be whole, cannot be integrated. So we are asking, will you find a way to celebrate darkness, even if it seems that that darkness is distorted, doesn't accept the truth as you understand it, even if that darkness is manipulative and telling lies and stories that you have named evil. Can you find a celebration in darkness? That there is creation which has indeed misunderstood its participation in all of it. And the parts of that misunderstanding have been where the myths and the religions have told stories about the wars, the battle of good and evil, the two brothers who fight, whether it's Cain and Abel or Enki and his brother in Sumer. The myths are beyond your 4, 5, 6,000 year history that you think you have the handle on, right? You don't. The myths you are remembering and being told over and over in new ways come from historically many, many millennia of souls rediscovering itself. So here you are now in this embodiment as part of a celebration that you're in this Aquarian age of new awakening, a new kind of dawning of light, a new possibility. If more and more and more individuals awaken to some of this to be true, then there is the potentiality and the promise that the encoded lies will be shattered, that the stories will have dissolved into one thing. Let there be light. So we don't have to have Michael and Lucifer fighting. We don't have to have all of that. Why? Because there is a unity already that has been distorted by false stories. We separate that in our inner human nature. I have a good part and a not good part. You know, people joke about having an evil twin, the part of them that's really not so loving or kind or filled with goodness. So how many times has that myth been told in story after story? Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I mean, things in your cultures have made wonderful stories to entertain you, but to keep the fear alive in you as well. So you say, interesting, but that's really not true, that the battle is raging, except when there is belief. So your DNA is rearranging. The memory is rearranging of your soul. Can you remember the moment you sparked from creation? How far back? It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or billions of years in your past. And you know why? Because time is not real either. That's just another myth of how the stories are linked together based on how you have been programmed in humanity to recall the struggle of the journey. So, struggle aside, celebrate, celebrate. Would you want to allow yourself to celebrate even when you don't feel like celebrating? Can you allow that there might be a part of your soul that will accept celebration even when you'd rather indulge in an emotional pity party, as they say? Oh, my life is so bad. My body hurts and my brain hurts and and my mother doesn't love me and my father abandoned me and I can never have a true love in my life, and you have story after story of reasons why you better not celebrate. You're not good enough. Your life isn't good enough to celebrate because things which have felt painful exist. There are stories also that you might have access to hearing or knowing of people who live in extreme circumstances of their physical life. Extreme poverty, extreme pain, extreme sufferings. So sometimes when you hear about that, you stop there in the story and you say, I don't deserve to celebrate because as long as there's another single soul suffering on this earth, I won't let myself feel good. Or you compare and say, oh, thank God my suffering isn't that bad. And I'm not saying don't be grateful, your suffering isn't that bad. But look to what's really going on, because every now and then you'll hear of a soul whose journey experiences life with physical, emotional, and mental traumas, and they're whistling, and they're happy, and they're choosing to be alive. And you don't know how to manage when you have that story. What? Then you feel guilty even more again, because wow, even that person is celebrating their life, and look how awful it is. So we don't celebrate that humans make choices that are hurtful to themselves and others. We don't celebrate the choices of feeling pain and suffering, but we celebrate the potential and the possibility of life that exists in all of that. And you know there has been at least one soul somewhere on this earth that has lived through the tragedies of human life in such a way that they are astounding to anyone observing that they have joy, that they have a way to be in it. You may have heard there are people who lived through the concentration camps of the World War II, as you call it, that somehow survived it because they chose to find a goodness in it. They found a way to have hope and to feel, other than all that other stuff going on, they knew, they weren't denying that people were dying or being hurt, but they knew that somewhere in all this there's a possibility of a new life. There have been people who are born without limbs, and they bounce around, and they move around, and they do things, and they'll put a paintbrush in their mouth, and they'll paint masterpieces. You've seen people with no reason on your mind's ideas of goodness to have any hope or any life expression other than pity and sorrow. So these things are your gift to remind you not to feel guilty because you have made suffering a choice rather than celebration, but to feel potential for anything's possible. What do you have to give up in order to feel joy and celebration in your life? What do you have to let go of in order to feel joyful, celebratory? Only you know that. Only you know what is it your mind, your ego is holding on to in order to justify the pain and suffering of your life. Are you blaming someone else? Are you blaming yourself? Are you blaming God? What are you holding on to that you would not celebrate everything? Are you blaming your DNA? Are you blaming the chemtrails? Are you blaming the politics of the day and politicians? What are you holding on to that keeps you from celebrating all the goodness and the love and the light that you are? So you can say, I'm no saint. I'm not a saint. I can't just rise above all of that and be always happy and always loving and always, well, you can, and you choose not to, and I'm not judging that, but you are. You are judging that you don't always choose the love, the light. I'm only human, some will say. Only human? You are divinely human. There is no only human. You are divinely human. So you will make choices that will seem to be erroneous, sinful, wrong, not wise. Okay, celebrate that. You will make choices that are actually non-conscious choices. You know those times when you fly off the handle in anger or rage, you realize, oh, blah. Or the moments when you just feel a sense of overwhelm and I want to give up my life and pull the covers over my head and not even deal with it. So those only human moments, you get to celebrate that your humanness, your divine humanness allows for you to have a range of empathy to all experiences, and then in that celebrate that you get to see it as serving you and serving humanity and serving the greater goodness that you are. Because you are reminded, for every day I choose to pretend I'm pitiful and sorrowful and aching and hurting and stupid and, you know, the list that you might have your own faults. For every day you let that be your dominant voice. That's one day less that you are fully alive. And here's the good news. You haven't wasted it. Because time does not exist in the way you think it does. If you do that repeatedly for so many years, chances are you're physically going to decay the body and it will suffer more and it will die. It will die according to the terms of your physical world. Chances are, the more you stay in that thinking, the more you will cut off your flow of energies of life. And you just come again, or do it again, or do however you want to express. You're not going to come back and be a human, you'll be an acorn and be a great oak tree. You're not going to be an oak tree, you'll be a cockroach. They live for billions of years, huh? As a species, not as an individual bug. So all of that is just another divine expression. So the integrative process is when you let it all exist without judging it and celebrate it. That's how it integrates into oneness. Some people live in this fantasy of having a world where there is no male and female, but there's androgyny. One sensuality, sexuality, one beingness. And I say fantasy because that's not what Earth is for. So, meanwhile, when someone fantasizes that that's what's real, they're not being okay with the way it expresses here. They're looking for it to get better or different, rather than celebrating what is. What's true is that male and female, as you understand it, are far more than you understand. And that the more you accept what appears to be distinct reflections of different purpose, the more you get to integrate and become whole with it and find that it is you. As the culture on the eastern part of their planets often teach, there is yin yang. And in each of those aspects, there's a piece of the other. It isn't just black and white, it's in the demonstration, black with a white dot and white with a black dot. It's not only a separate thing, they are becoming, in the dance, part of the same. So whatever is your things that you look to be separate, find a way that you let it be what it is and celebrate it so that it integrates into a wholeness. Will it be that the human race will be an androgynous one? Given evolutionary time potentiality, it could be in another billion years, yes. It could be. But it isn't for you to worry about or think about or be here, as they say, now. Celebrate. Now, there's celebration, and then there's celebration. So the celebration doesn't have to mean a drunken party. One more bottle of vodka, please. No, it's not a celebration unless we have, 6 kegs of beer. People get funny notions about what celebration is supposed to look like. Maybe celebration is that moment you're sitting quietly in your home or in your car or in a workspace, and you have that breath, and you just feel an energy welling up in you, and you just feel a giggle for no reason. Not because something is funny, not because someone said or did a thing, but because that's the energy of life in you. And you just smile with it, and you feel it, and you breathe it in. That's your celebration. And then maybe it's interrupted by someone or something in life that doesn't mean to interrupt your celebration, but gives you another moment to find a way to integrate what seems to be another separation into oneness. So when you have spontaneous celebrations, spontaneous integrations, those places in you, those moments where you feel at one and not separate from anything or anyone, amp the celebration up and say, this is what I know, this is how I am, this is who I am, this is what I want, and I declare to all of the universe that I celebrate all things. So be it, and so it is.